All right. I hope this is working. I do apologize if there is somewhat of a delay in my audio versus the live stream itself. I am just trying to check that quickly. I do apologize if there is somewhat of a delay in my audio. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'll be there with a moment. I'll be there with a moment. Okay, so there is some sort of mismatch between the audio and the sound, and I do apologize for that. So I hope that's not too bothersome. I will try and keep that in mind as I continue with this live stream. It is the first time I'm using this new software and also a new setup that I've created. So the camera, the microphone, hopefully the audio quality is still pretty good. It should be actually really good, to be honest, to be humble, that is. So I apologize for that. These are the kind of kinks that one has to kind of really just test out live and then sort of play it back. But I am going to get started on what I want to discuss. And hopefully, if you can forgive me for this slight audio difficulty, then we should be good to go. Okay. So I will try and fix this for the next time. Maybe we'll cut this one a bit short as a result. But I am going to just, in the meantime, I guess, give you guys a rough idea of just how it's going to probably be going forward, and hopefully it will be helpful. So yes, let's go with that. Right. So I want to talk about really why is it that Virgin Voyages or rather my time with Virgin Voyages, I believe for the near future at least, is pretty much done for. And I want to make this quite clear. This is not an indictment on Virgin. And if you have got sort of your own, or rather, let me rephrase that. This is not to say that if you personally have something booked with Virgin coming up, and it's your first time with them, that you should cancel it. I'm not here to say that. Quite the contrary, I think you'll have a great time. This is more as a sort of warning, because I'll use myself as an example, and explain why I think that for the most part, this would apply to many other people, and sort of why it's important to really consider not picking Virgin going forward until things change. And so, without further ado, let's go through that. And I think the best way to go through that example is to kind of say, like, how have things changed from when they began to where they are today? And what is it about those changes, and then using myself as an example, where it just to me makes no sense to ever book with them again, so long as things stay the way that they are. Or just carry on going in this direction. And I'll remind you that if you're looking for tips and tricks, ironically, I'm saying that I will not go with them going forward. But at the same time, as a matter of fact, my channel has got the best video for getting your dining reservations, because that's a nightmare, and we'll get to that. It's got the best video out there on like making the most of embarkation day, and not these contrived, annoying videos where people go like, my top 5 best and top 5 worst, tips for embarkation day, or things to do in embarkation day. And like maybe 4 out of the 5 in each of those categories are things you'll find in all these videos. No, if you've seen them, you'll know they're totally fantastic. And by the way, that first one on the dining reservations works every time, still holds today, even though they've changed some of the interface and a few things. The logic and everything is still the same. I even saw actually a new YouTube channel. I'm a little bit annoyed by it because this person, sorry, I muted myself there. This person quite literally, for sure, saw that video of mine and then tried to like pass on that as their own idea. They're quite a new channel. I'm not going to name and shame. I think if they ever come across this, then they should maybe just think about not plagiarizing, just give credit where it's due. But anyway, okay, so let's start with where did things go wrong with Virgin, or where did they go right? When Virgin launched, and I've mentioned this a few times in my videos, Virgin had this unbelievable offering, this unique product offering, right? They were saying, look, we're going to be the new kids on the block. We're going to be somewhat health orientated or more healthier lifestyle orientated. So, our food's going to be higher quality than the other guys. The ship's not going to be a monster, but it's going to have kind of like a quote unquote yacht-like experience, but on a cruise ship. We're going to focus on fitness classes, which will be free, and we're going to have amazing stuff and, really kind of like the good life, a bit bougie, as some people like to say, but with a playfulness and fun side to it. It's going to be adults only, and we're not going to make this thing so complicated, everything's going to be included, all included luxury entertainment. And by the way, if you go onto the Internet Archives and you go to their websites from 2020 or 2021, 2019, whenever it was, you'll see like what they used to advertise and how they've had to kind of change that because of the changes they've made. It's one of the great things of the internet in that case, is that this information is out there for everyone to see. So, and I've thought about making videos on that, but it kind of would just get a bit carried away. And so maybe it's better for a live stream. And thank you, by the way, to the people who are watching this live stream right now. There's a few of you. I appreciate that because, as I mentioned, quite a few technical issues. And hopefully we'll fix that up for the next one. But here's the sort of deal. So what happened with Virgin is, that was how they began. And I have to say, my first time going with them, my biggest regret was that the sailing was only 4 nights. I thought, wow. And after the first day, I was like, wow, damn, I made a mistake. I should have done a longer sailing. And this was my first cruise too, was with Virgin. Now, the biggest issue that has happened is already they've made booking so much more complicated. It used to be that Virgin was a few clicks and you were done, right? So I've got the Virgin website open here. It's for a good reason. Let me show you exactly why, for example, that is going to be the case. Okay, so here's the Virgin website. I'm just going to pick anything. Let's just go with, doesn't really matter. Okay. Now, notice, let's just say that this is the sailing we wanted to pick. It used to be, by the way, that you would pick the sailing, pick the date, pick your cabin, pay. That was it. It was super, super easy. No longer the case, right? So now let's say we had picked our sailing, and this is the sailing we want, this is the date we want, great, so far, so good, no complications, right? So it's still exactly how it used to be. Sorry, that's a bit slow, it's because of the stream. Let's just say I was doing 2 people, whatever, don't care, right? Doesn't matter if I'm solo or not. Okay, so we picked the date, now we pick our cabin, and already, by the way, things are looking a bit different. So let's say we pick a sea terrace, okay. Now what happens? Of course, we have the different kinds of sea terraces. Fine, if you insist. Okay, so we just want a regular sea terrace. That's all. Well, now we've already hit one of our newfound annoyances, right? This whole so-called airline pricing. So naturally, you have this problem where originally it was just all the same. Now they've gone and made it different, made it more painful. It's the most annoying thing ever. So right now, this is supposedly what it used to always be. Now we've got these two. So imagine you were new to Virgin Voyages. You're coming on for the first time and you're thinking, well, I'd like to go with these guys. Well, so far everything was working fine, but now you hit this. Now you're bombarded with all of this stuff. Okay, like basic Wi-Fi, classic, premium. You're new. What the hell was classic? What's basic? What's this? Now you're reading up. Now you see about pre-book your dining. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm paying for your dining. Your dining is one of the most important things. Why have I got these options here? This seems a bit odd. And then you're reading about refundable, non-refundable, changes allowed, no changes allowed. It became so convoluted. Let's pretend you've done now all your research and you say, okay, I'll pick the essential. Great. We're done, right? No, they've added this in now. Now you got to look and see all these added costs if you want to do it. Never used to be this whole nickel and dime thing. Now you got to say to yourself, okay, fine. So I guess I want the voyage protection. I don't want the voyage protection, the bar tabs, etc. This kind of used to be here, but also didn't. Okay. So you now say, no, I don't want this, no thanks, right? So move along, don't want this. Okay, so after like adding 3 more clicks in, we finally get to the end. And what has happened here? Oh, well, hold on a second. When Virgin started, gratuities were included in your fare. Now they've supposedly removed it. But the reality is that these are just added costs, okay? All of this is just added fluff. This didn't suddenly get actually cheaper, it got more expensive over time. So these are now just on top of the gratuities that you were already paying before, basically. Yes, when they made this change originally, it showed like as if the price was the same as from before. That's because they did a last minute change on their website just before that announcement. So now you decide like, okay, now I'm going to add it or I'm not going to add it. I don't really know what's going on over here. Okay. And now you say, right, checkout, etc. You've made this so much more convoluted, so much more clicks, and then things that used to be or not. So the booking process has become a nightmare. Okay. Now what has happened since then? Well, on top of that, they used to promise that all included entertainment, right? That's what they did. So I think if we go back to here, I'll actually be able to see, we can see if they've maybe changed the wording here. But I can assure you, if you went to their original website from years ago and basically until 2022, I believe, or 3, you would see the same thing. So here, you see now they say entertainment, awe-inspiring, immersive entertainment. If we go back to the main website, right? You'll probably be able to see this too, right? Why Virgin Voyages? I mean, that's why I ask when they make these changes, why are you making these changes? You keep making the product worse. So let's go to what's included. And perhaps here you'll see what I'm trying to say. Okay, they keep talking about these new changes that no one likes, the food, Wi-Fi for all. Shout out to whoever this guy is. He's been on their advertising forever. It's really funny. It's been like the stock standard silver fox every time. Unlimited, essential drinks always on us, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you see, this used to say all-inclusive entertainment. Like, you never, all-included entertainment, sorry. You never had to pay extra or pay it all. They used to make sure no nickel and diming, no this, and all of that, okay? I want to see if they now mention it at all. Nope. Yeah. So it used to be that they used to say, hey, you're not gonna need to pay anything extra for this. It's okay. They can't say that anymore because they've made certain shows cost you money. And that's been one of the craziest things. This idea that they kept on taking their original product, their original offering, and slowly but surely just making it worse. And they've done that with everything. So now the entertainment isn't all included. Sometimes you're going to have to pay extra for certain ones. There's not a lot of them. But it's just the case that, it used to be if there was a show, you could go watch it. Now, no. They also started off by being really leaning into being the tech savvy of the cruise groups, because they were the new kid on the block. So they could afford to, from the ground up, build that infrastructure that was going to allow them to really lean into a more modern tech savvy market. And this was great. Seriously, unbelievable. For example, you wanted to make any changes to your dining and stuff, it was all easy to do on your app once you were on board. You wanted to go and see a show. The moment you got on board, you could book that seat at that show. And then when you wanted to go, the show was happening, you just walked up to the entrance a few minutes before. They would have these QR scanners and stuff and the pads. Show them your thing, it would scan, it'd come up, great, or in you go. No reserved seating except for the rock stars. They had usually the front 2 rows. But the point was, you didn't have to wait in a line. But then they did away with that system. They said, you know what, let's get rid of it. Let's go backwards instead of forward. So what was the problem with this? The problem was that if you wanted to go and see a show now, well, you're going to see a line for sure, unless the show's begun, or unless it's maybe like late into a long cruise where it's for sure you would have had other opportunity to see it. But now you'll see a line. It's ridiculous. This never used to be the case. And for those people saying, oh, but what if people didn't rock up? Then you wouldn't go because it would say sold out. Yeah, well, people would still go and chance it. They'd go there and say, hey, is there any seats available? And the person at the front would be like, yeah, there is. You can just walk right in and find yourself a seat. Because they had the information on who rocked up and who didn't. And they could tell you how much of the capacity was there. And thus they would be able to tell you, hey, yeah, there are going to be seats available. Go for it. That went away. Gone. Finito. So you have this regression there where it just went out the wall. Now on top of that, the food. This one's the worst part. First, in terms of booking your dining reservations. Again, my most successful video on this channel and the one that has helped people the most. And I knew it was going to be back then. If you spoke to me before I released it, I said, this is going to probably be the best video or the most successful one for ages. Why? Because even though my editing, by the way, is not great and all of that, and even then, I think that was like my 3rd or something video. It was like one of my earliest videos. I knew that the information in it was unbeatable and the best out there. For whatever reason, I don't know, people never thought about it, or people just thought they could keep certain secrets to themselves. I didn't care. So I went and made that video. And that video can only be successful so long as Virgin make booking their dining reservations an utter nightmare. And the worst and most offensive thing about what they've done is they have monetized how bad their dining reservations are. That's the most insulting part. How did they do this? Well, because, as you know, the changes, this whole flex fare thing, or whatever they called it, they basically said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this and segregate it further. So before you had rock stars and non-rock stars. Now you have rock stars, and then within the non-rock stars, 3 categories instead of 1. And so that made that the problem where the system would crash when the bookings opened up to the non-rock stars, that's potentially solved that problem because you've segmented that into smaller batches. But the issue now is that you've made 2 of the other batches worse unless they pay more money. And that to me is what makes this so infuriating. Instead of fixing the issue, and there's so many ways they could have done this, because I don't want to just complain. I want to make sure we put out the obvious solutions here. 1, increase capacity on newer ships. On the ships that are coming, take some of that space and make certain restaurants and dining bigger. Say, okay, we see that these places are popular. So what we're going to do is increase the capacity, because that way we can make sure that more people can go at each given point in time, which probably they've got the data to show when are the busiest times. and they can probably work out a better sizing of each restaurant. They can do that. They've got the data. That's part one. Part two is to then just in general improve your servers, right? So if one of the issues is actually the crashing of these servers when people are booking their dining reservations, then a very simple and very straightforward solution is that you're going to rather make sure that you can go there and have that additional capacity so that when people are trying to make their reservations, their system, the app that you've made, this awful app, by the way, which again, they've made a new one now. It's equally terrible. Surprise. That can now handle this sudden, totally expected and planned and known in advance spike in people trying to make their dining reservations. But they didn't do that. They've monetized it. That's what they did. That's the insulting part. Their terrible dining reservation system has been totally monetized. So that's why my video, I believe, aside from, again, the information being good, the strategy being good, it doesn't get outdated unless they totally change their system. So now, I think when I released that, it was 2022, 23, whenever it was, when this channel came out, I think early 2024, perhaps. I can't recall it now. But whenever it came out, that was the third video. Camera quality is not good because I was using the wrong setting on a certain camera of mine that I was using as a webcam. You know, the lighting's terrible because I'm in like a study sort of thing, a spare room study thing. It's a, you know, but the slideshow and everything is excellent. The information, top notch. And so you can go and see how people have benefited from that. So now let's move on to the actual food itself. Okay, you've somehow gotten all, you know, somehow you followed my video, you've got all your dining reservations. You did your embarkation video of mine, so you definitely have everything perfect. The food on board got worse. How? Well, number one, the galley's food used to actually be decent. Not great, not good, it was okay. That has gone so downhill, it's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I don't know how people can in good conscience get food from the galley. It astounds me how I truly believe you must be just desperately hungry and it was the nearest place to you to go and eat there. It's so bad. They did a few things to make it better. They made the sort of like each night there's a special, you know, beef Wellington, chicken tikka masala, something like that. But the quality of their food has gone down the drain. I remember the last time I went on Virgin Voyages, I wanted to do two things in particular to make sure that I had really gotten and given them, you know, all I could for that final chance. And this is, again, after several fantastic voyages. Every voyage I had with Virgin, I loved it. They were excellent. But I knew each time that we were getting to the end of this because it just was losing that value add. That gap of what you paid and what you got was not only shrinking to near zero, it was going into the negative, meaning you'd pay X and you'd walk away feeling that you got way less than X. And when that happens in any product or business, you're done with them, unless there's no one else available. So, and there are plenty, let's be clear. So anyway, as I was saying, I went on one of the Couture sailings from Piraeus near Athens, and it was during the food festival. So I was really excited for that. I thought, okay, this could be awesome. I had been on previously just before a food festival, and they kind of started things a bit earlier, but this was a totally different idea with the night market and all of that. And I'll tell you something, the effort put into the night market was great. I love the concept. Unfortunately, the food was not good. So they had the decor and the styling. They even had merchandise that they were selling for the food festival. And some of it was quite nice. Somewhere I have, wherever, some enamel pin, I think, because I like those. They're nice little keepsakes, I think, from that. And previously, ideas from the food festival would make its way onto the menus of their restaurants. And I also went into a solo insider because all my other sailings I had been on a sea terrace. So I wanted to just see, what is it like if you really are solo in a solo cabin. But the food is terrible, really bad. Again, at the galley, the pizzas have been fantastic. The pizza place, I think, is honestly brilliant. Okay. On top of that, I think there are only 2 restaurants worth going to. If it's your first time, go and try all of them so you can form your own opinion. People have different preferences. I get it. But in terms of the quality of the food, maybe the service too in some aspects, I think the Wake and Extra Virgin are in their own class compared to the other options on the ship. I think Razzle Dazzle by night is somewhat of like a safe third option. And so, why not, for example, Test Kitchen? I think Test Kitchen, you do it once and you're happy with it. You're not, by the way, going to walk away full. No one leaves the Test Kitchen full. Go watch my restaurant tips and tricks video on that. I explain how basically you go to the pizza place the moment you're done with the Test Kitchen. But the rest of it is just not great. I think the worst quality food is at Gambe. It's a fun experience, don't get me wrong. Terrible quality food. Horrible. Going to the Pink Agave. I mean, half the time if the lighting is at least appropriate and you can see the food on your plate, most of it is just microwavable stuff or reheated stuff. I don't like that. I think that's awful. They have the best steak, but at the same time, it's only the best if it's good. And what I mean by that, because that sounds a bit strange, right? The Oaxacan prime rib, I think it's a prime rib, is fantastic. Unfortunately, if you get a very fatty piece or they don't cook it so well, it's just inedible. It's gross. If you get a fantastic piece, it's the best steak you'll have on the ship. So its inconsistency crushes me every time. The best steak, I think, is obviously Extra Virgin. Extra Virgin steak, ironically, is the best versus the Wake, which is their dedicated steakhouse. Go figure. But outside of those, I just think it's like those are the only 2 great places of the sit-down premium restaurants. The rest, I think you just don't get that value. And they cut corners at all of these now. When Virgin started, Extra Virgin as a restaurant, they really went through the full experience. You got your antipasta, your bread service. You would get your cheese and meat platter after your starter. Or you just pick one or the other if you don't eat one of those or don't like one of them. Then you'd get your main or your pasta, like a small thing of pasta, and then your main or whatever it is you're doing. And then before dessert, you would get your digestif. Fantastic. Or was it the aperitif? No, the digestif. I've now mixed them up. Digestif. I can't remember if that's before dessert or after. Either way, you would get that. These days, they don't do it. It's hit or miss if they do it, I think. But it used to be a norm. You would get it, and it would be part of your experience. You wouldn't be charged extra, etc. Now they don't do that. Then you'd get your dessert. And if you ordered the avgato, this is the best part. If you ordered the avgato, part of that experience is the show element of it. They bring the cart out and then you say what you want and then they make it there in front of you. And it's these small things that really elevated that experience and made it feel more premium. Even if it wasn't, maybe. That little bit of show, that little bit of effort, that's what made it such a fantastic experience on board. Unfortunately, what happened very shortly after they launched, and within about the first year or two, they stopped, or when I say they, I'm not saying Virgin made a thing of like, no, you do not do this anymore. I think just the way operations kind of handled things is basically your server would come up to you and say, well, I'd have the avocado. They say, oh, well, what did you like in it? And I remember the first time that happened to me, and it happened ever since. And eventually I got kind of irate about it because I just thought it was like, no, not what I paid for. right? You're going to charge me X for this. You're going to market it as this. You're going to do it exactly how I remember it was done the first time I sailed with you guys. Because to accept anything less is to be an idiot. So I said, well, just bring the cart over. They said, okay, but I could just tell you, you could just tell me what you want, and I can make it and bring it here. And I said, that's nice. Bring the cart over. It's where they started to change these small little elements in every part of the experience that utterly just ruined it. And that's in just an example using extra virgin. In all the other restaurants, little tiny things changed, whether you're aware of it or not. And collectively, this is just nickel and diming, but in reverse, right? Instead of making you pay extra for something to get a better experience, they took the baseline experience that was great to begin with, and they just started to pull back on a few things. If you aren't a solo sailor, you'll still want to hear this, because this is where it first started to kind of creep in. When you're a solo sailor, they have the solo meetup on the first night or first day. It's usually at the back of the ship, at the athletic club, etc. And part of this meetup was that you would get, a welcome drink and all of that. Not they call it champagne. I think it's sparkling wine. And if it is champagne, it's not worth drinking it. And then the Moet and Chandon that they give the rock stars is no better either, because I think that's a awful champagne. But, anyway. People love to be pretentious, so they'll just drink it and think they're great. My hot take of this entire video, probably. You know what? Actually, give me 2 seconds. I will get you better champagne than what the rock stars have. One moment. Okay. I will give you 2 examples. Quite literally, if you want, and by the way, they've got this. They stock it. It's just not part of the Louis Vuitton group, so I don't think that's part of their deal for the Rockstar experience. But anyway, is if you just want one slightly better than Moet Chandon, literally just a little bit better, and it's around the same price, if not even sometimes a little bit cheaper, you could just get Viv. Like, that simple, okay? If they really wanted to treat you, then you could go and be given something like Billicar. Like, why not, right? But that's how Virgin operate. They start just sort of nickel and diming these things, but again, backwards. They just ruin the experience more. Anyway, back to my story on the solo sailor thing. So, and how this was early signs of some of the cutbacks they were doing. So basically, you would find yourself going on the ship, and they would have these drinks. And then they would also, every day of the sailing, there would be a solo meetup, whether it was in the morning or in the afternoon, like late afternoon, early evening. And so if it was the morning, it'd be a coffee meetup. And in the coffee meetup, you all get given, Intelligentsia, whatever the coffee company is called that they have at the grounds club, because it usually was at the grounds club. And it would be included, like you wouldn't have to pay. It was covered by Virgin. And again, keep in mind that solo sailors pay a premium. So if you have a solo cabin, your per person rate on that cabin is going to be somewhere between 1.5 to 1.8. That's usually the industry norm for that. And so this is usually some of the small ways that they kind of try to justify that extra cost, is because of these special events and all of this extra stuff and experience to try and like make up for it. So, if anyone says, yeah, well, they were giving it to you for free, blah, 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 nothing's free. You've paid for it. Okay. You've more than paid for your, average coffee. That isn't filter coffee. So they used to do that for the drinks thing. It'd be with the hostess or someone. And again, they would get you, it would be at the Sips Champagne Lounge and all of that. That's kind of gone. Now they have that occasionally. It's not even like a norm. You can't predict that, there will be solo events or not. I did a back-to-back in 2024, I think it was, in February, March, from San Juan. They had just started those sailings. And lo and behold, on the first one, there was the solo meetup on day 1, solo dinner, and nothing else for solos. And we all complained about it. We said, this is crazy. On the second, they said, "Oh, we're sorry. We'll make sure for the next one. We'll make sure that the next sailing will have it." But by the way, we never mentioned we were on the next sailing. We rock up on the next sailing because there were several of us doing the back-to-back. And there was like this shock look of like, oh, bleep, right? And it was so funny because you could see that Virgin basically just stopped caring. So, solos, you get the solo meetup, there's a solo dinner, be done with it, okay? These all may seem like small things, but when you start to add all these changes up, remember there used to be basic Wi-Fi and premium Wi-Fi. Then they split that into several different variations, okay? All of it has just made the experience more complicated. And again, I'm not saying like this is like, rocket science. And so, oh my word, how will we solve this? Or it's so difficult to learn. No, it's just you're trying to book a vacation. You're either going to make it very DIY, build it yourself, like, choose your own adventure. Alternatively, you're going to go with the option of just make it simple. Keep it simple, stupid, basically. Virgin started with that other one, as simple as can be. They haven't gone to the extreme of, build your own adventure. They're somewhere in the middle and kind of like sitting on the fence. The only thing that will happen is you get a sore backside. Okay. So it's really unfortunate that Virgin went ahead and did this. And I can go on about all these other changes. My bottom line to you is that the shows are not that great. I think when you go on the first time, that first sailing is fantastic because everything's new, everything's different if you've been on another cruise before. I think people place way too much emphasis on adults only, right? I think if you're smart about when you book, which cruise line, etc., if you're going to stick to cruises, then there are very manageable ways where the adults only part or lack thereof actually doesn't make a difference. I did a back-to-back on Norwegian. It was my first time with Norwegian, and I decided, I'll do a back-to-back. That was pretty lucky with my time off then. I'll do a back-to-back that's going to be like 24, 26 nights, okay? Including a transatlantic, which I think was crazy to do. But I did it, which was great. And they allow kids. But on the first sailing, which was about a 10-day one, there were kids, but like these were the most well-behaved kids I've ever seen in my life. I was like embarrassed as to how I was as a kid versus them. It was crazy. I don't know what planet they came from. The second sailing, they were also kids. Again, super well-behaved. So I don't know what happened to all the crazy kids, but they weren't on any of those sailings. And again, 26 nights, I would have seen a crazy kid if there was one. So, I'm guessing if you go on maybe Disney, if you go on maybe Royal Caribbean, these more, yes, the main targets are families and kids. I get it. Like, that might make sense. But I think Virgin's sort of moat of adults only is just not strong enough. The other thing, of course, I think is the elephant in the room is that with all these changes that have happened, making their product worse and the whole experience worse, they keep raising the prices even more and like astronomically more versus what it was. And a lot of people said, well, it was part of their initial offering to like kind of get people to come in, so they made the prices lower. Yeah, market penetration prices. Get it, got it, good. The issue is that the extent to which they've increased it just makes no sense. And a lot of people you'll see on these forums like to defend Virgin and say, well, of course they got to increase it because of this. Let's get one thing straight here. Virgin ships are bare bone. Okay, when you go and book a Virgin Voyages ship, what exactly is justifying them needing to offer it at such a high price? Think about that for just a second. Okay, all these cruise ships have got cabins. So it's probably not the cabins because the cabins are all kind of the same. If in the most modern, later ships, the cabins are all kind of the same. Virgin's has a different design aesthetic, but it's not the main thing. Okay, what about the pools? Well, Virgin's pool is a shame. I call it the pond in most of my videos you'll watch. So it can't be the upkeep and maintenance of that because it's a singular thing that's nothing. Then there's that weird X-pool pond thing, useless. There's about 4 hot tubs. They're not even big. Okay, they're just like regular hot tubs or whatever. So far, where is the justification of the cost? Is it the food? Not really, because actually, whilst Virgin sell the whole premium food concept, The fact that they reliably know how busy those restaurants are going to be means that actually there are additional costs needed for those kind of foods, or the quality of food like the steaks and stuff, isn't that much more than what some of the other cruise lines do, where they offer separated, main dining room included, and then the added cost stuff. Because the added cost, they can't predict how many people are going to want to go leading up to it. That fluctuation causes issues with the purchasing that they're going to need to make at each sailing. So there's a lot of these cost efficiencies that actually are built into Virgin Voyages' model. And then you get to the real reason, right? Why can Virgin actually afford to charge less? Well, because their ship has no extensive high maintenance features. So go and look at the price of an insider cabin on an Icon class ship on Royal Caribbean. You'll see that it's going to cost you a crazy amount per night on any given sailing. Go check it out. Then go compare an insider cabin on Virgin Voyages. There is a significant price difference, but it's not as big as you think it would be. And this is sort of the problem. Virgin's pricing is trying to match that of their competitors. Who do they view as their competitor? I'm guessing NCL, maybe Royal Caribbean. I don't think they view Disney as much of a competitor because, of course, adults only and that. But in particular because Disney's so kids geared, right? Go and look at those price differences and then go take a look at Virgin. They're pricing themselves the same, but if you go on, let's say, NCL's Prima class, right, which is in line around the same time as Virgin's one came out, you're going to see that the NCL ship is probably actually going to cost you less. Again, they have a different pricing model on certain things, right? But the main reason that they charge these amounts is because they've got water slides or go-karts and all the stuff that they've got to just guarantee that they can get the money to cover the costs for that, whether or not you're going to go on them. Okay, Virgin doesn't have that. They got that outdoor gym, right, which I barely ever see used. The one with like the metal things literally bolted in. And so you kind of have to, if you want to do like push-ups and stuff, you can do that. That's about it. They have that boxing ring, which once more, I don't ever see people use. I think I've seen anyone ever use it twice. And I think only in one instance was that someone seriously using it and not just like, oh, look, a boxing ring. Let me get inside. Like that was it. Okay. They have that net thing at the back, which, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in this unfortunate situation, but if you're ever eating at the galley and you decide to eat outside and you're below that deck, you should pray. Pray to whatever omnipotent being you may choose to believe in or not, that whilst you're trying to eat and that's above you, that if you happen to look up, that whoever may be there was a bit more conservative in how they decided to dress, because you might lose your appetite. It's happened before. Anyway, moving on from that. So the ship has got a bare bones on it. There's no crazy fixed entertainment structures, but they're going to charge the same as if they did have that. And when you start to understand that model of theirs and the other competitors and the prices that they're charging and the competitors are charging, suddenly that value proposition starts to look really bad. And that's what I think has happened to Virgin. They started with a decent pricing. Yes, artificially lower. They used their marketing budget basically probably to subsidize that, to get the ball rolling on people to come in. They did one initial price increase that I think was totally justifiable because, again, they now needed to switch from artificially low prices, that market penetration price, to a more sustainable price, and then actually spend on real marketing, more stringent marketing. But fast forward to today, they've upped their prices dramatically, and you've got to ask yourself, what added value am I getting for those prices? The other cruise lines can pull it off. Why? Because they're releasing new ships, and the new ships have got changes to it. And so sometimes they mix it up and make it difficult to understand what is it that the other ship doesn't have that this one does have that justifies that additional cost. And they can usually switch a few things around or add some genuinely new stuff to it and improvements. And you can sit there and go, yeah, you know what, that makes sense. I think I'm okay paying a little bit extra. Usually it's the case. Virgin have been bringing out the same ship several times, with only the most recent one that's going to be going to Alaska with some modifications and the Panama Canal, etc. But in terms of what's on board, it's exactly the same. And yet they're increasing their prices. And then at the same time, making these small little cuts, incremental cuts, in just what's standard on the ship. And then on top of that, switching up and making you pay more for things that previously were included. And trying to kind of muddy the water and play sort of a cup and ball game by saying, oh, look over there, there you go, find the queen. Right, a 3-card Monty, but they've changed up the cabins and made you think you're getting more out of it. Then they did some other things, which again, they've just delayed several times. The loyalty program is in shambles. You know, when the loyalty program first started, I had it instantly because by then I'd already done 2 sailings. And back then when it launched, you basically just had to do 2 sailings within a given period of time and you got deep blue extras. There was no blue extras, which was so stupid and lazy. This main perk really there was, I guess, maybe the laundry, but more importantly, I would say, was the priority boarding. And especially if you see my video on embarkation day, you'll know why, if you can get priority boarding, it can make the biggest difference in like 100 ways. It can really just from 0 to hero that start of your trip. And so what was the problem there? Well, because they kept delaying, and then they made more status matches, and then made it even easier to keep getting deep blue extras. I kid you not, by the last cruise I did on Virgin Voyages, which at that stage they had now launched the current system, where you've got, I don't even know what to call it. I've sailed once, I've sailed 3 times, which they called blue extras, and then the deep blue extras. Again, beyond stupid and lazy, right? That middle thing was, I don't know, someone got paid in corporate to come up with that. It's a joke. But the main point was, by that time, I kid you not, I was in Piraeus with a few people I'd met on a previous sailing. We had planned to like all go on the sailing together. And we all, except for one, I think, had priority boarding, but we got the one to join us for it. And I kid you not, when we got to the waiting area to get on for priority boarding, it was an entire hangar full of people. I thought I'd walked into the wrong area. And this isn't to sound sort of pretentious or anything, but it's almost become like a joke, a spoof, as you would, that you walked in, and I went and double backed and I spoke to the member of staff. I said, sorry, I'm looking for the deep blue extras priority boarding area. And she looked at me and she said, yes, this is it. And I said, all these people have got priority boarding? She said, yes. I said, out of interest, do you have the number of how many people have priority boarding? She said, I don't, but they'll have it once you're on board if you're interested. I said, I certainly am. Get on board the ship, go to ask someone about the number. It turned out that on that sailing, stand to be corrected on this, but from what I recall, they said it was somewhere between, if I remember, either 40 or 50%. 40 or 50% of a full sailing had priority boarding in one way or the other. As far as I remember, it was like 40 plus or something was just from deep blue extras, if not a little bit more. So when you have that kind of thing being a norm, and it became, and I think to this day is still pretty much a norm, you effectively have destroyed the value of the priority boarding. And so again, Virgin have in so many ways just destroyed everything of value that they were offering previously. And so when you take your product, and let's say in the beginning of the first sailing, if you could measure the value add from your experience, let's say 10 was the highest, or 10 was the number, and let's say 10 is fantastic, right? Or put into dollar terms, you would pay 1,000 and you'd walk off feeling like you got 1,500 of value, or 2,000, let's go extreme. Which means the net value that you'd get, You took the value you perceived to have gotten of 2,000 minus the value of what you paid, 1,000. The net benefit to you was $1,000 in perceived value. Then they increased the price. Fine. Now you walk away with feeling like you got $750 of value. And then through all these changes that they made, both making the actual product worse, making certain things cost money like shows that previously wouldn't, because that was their promise, and all these other things they said they would never do and now have done, the net result is that that value has eroded to either zero or negative for me. So before I wrap up, by the way, if you want to ask a question, feel free to type it. I'll take any question you want and happy to answer it. So by all means, you can type it in the live chat. We've got some time because I want to wrap this up on the hour. So please type any question you have if you have any. I want to point out just one more thing. So, if you're going to go with Virgin, right, then again, if you've never been and you're interested, I say give it a shot. But I would just sort of warn you that the history and track record they've got so far is that they keep making things worse. So today is going to be the best experience you'll ever have on Virgin Voyages. But thereafter, if they keep going along this trend, it's only going to get worse. That's part one. Part two, if you want to kind of understand a great summary of sort of the direction Virgin Voyages is going, they pre-ordered several ships from the get-go. Makes sense, they were trying to ramp up their ability to generate revenue, and so they needed more ships, and it takes time. But the latest ship has been delayed several times because they made significant alterations according to, their own jargon. Because it was always from the get-go being planned to go through the Panama Canal and to go to Alaska. So with all these delays, what did they decide to make significant changes of? Some of the cabins, and then obviously where the lifeboats are because of getting through the Panama Canal. But the real more important thing is that they decided that, our ship has been designed for warm weather. We don't have any indoor pools or swimming areas outside of what's in the spa, and that's not exactly where you're going to do laps or anything or have a meaningful swimming experience. And so, what we should probably do, especially because Alaska can get chilly, I think we should maybe enclose the pool area so that it can handle all kinds of weather, like a solarium. Nope, they didn't do that. So these guys decided, let's make some changes by adding in different room types and all of this, but with such a significant delay, let's make sure we definitely don't create some sort of indoor swimming area just by putting a cover over an existing area in the design. Again, there might be some engineering reasons behind this, so I don't want to be too harsh on them. But that's the kind of people right now who are steering this company, the ship that is Virgin Voyages as a company. The same people who said, what we should do with these significant delays because we're going to make these alterations for our ship that's going to go into Alaska, where it can get pretty chilly sometimes. We're going to not create a solarium and make a covered area so that if you want to view Alaska and it's cold while you sail through the glaciers and all of that, you won't have to be freezing. No, we're going to leave it as is. Cover the pool area so that you could swim even if it's cold because you've got the solarium with you. Nope, we're not going to do that. That's the minds and brilliance that's leading everything at Virgin right now. And I think that kind of makes a good summary for what to expect going forward. If I were to go back in time, would I change anything? I don't think so, because I had a great time on Virgin when I did sail with them, and I did several sailings with them. But anyone who asks me that's interested in going on a cruise, who would I pick? Again, I would say to them, if you're looking for something like Virgin Voyages, honestly, I think NCL are the real underdog here. I I think having gone on Prima, which was the one I went on for that back-to-back, excellent ship. It had all the things I liked about Virgin's design concept, but just way better. Their indulged food hall was unbelievable. That truly wasn't a buffet. That's actually an amazing concept. They basically took the galley that Virgin did kind of pioneer or bring forward and just said, hold my beer, we're going to make this 1,000 times better. And they did it. So that's amazing. I think the value offer is incredible, unbeatable. Genuinely, I think they offer the best value of all of them. The entertainment was fantastic, leaps and bounds better than Virgin. And they had stuff going from the earliest hours to the latest hours, all the time. And I spoke to people who were longtime sailors on NCL, and they told me that the entertainment's gotten worse. It used to be way better. And again, this was an interesting thing. I was just coming from Virgin, thinking Virgin's has been the same and it's not great. These guys are telling me this is terrible. I think it's so much better. So that comparison perspective was important. I value the fact that they told me it got better. It's gotten worse, sorry. Because I think that that would have been difficult for me to believe. Their solo experience, if you're a solo sailor, excellent. I mean, if you're looking to have an unbelievable solo experience, NCL is going to be the guys for you. And just to be clear, they're not a sponsor, nothing. I just genuinely had such an excellent time with them. But I do want to be quite clear, that was on their Prima class ship. I don't want to make any comments about their older ones. Anyway, I think we're going to start wrapping this up. To anyone who's been here from the start, thank you for watching. It would be greatly appreciated if you gave this a thumbs up, if you left a comment when this is over, or put a comment in the chat right now. I apologize for the delay with the video and the audio. Like I said at the start, if you're joining in, this is a new setup I've done, including the camera, including microphone, and the camera is very high quality, the microphone's very high quality, but the difference of data transfer is significant when you compare audio and visual. And so naturally, that's going to make quite a significant difference when it comes to the syncing of the videos. I need to take that up. It's my first stream of the year, and with the setup, definitely need to fix that. So thank you if you've managed to get through this, and I apologize for that. Anyway, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe. I hope you're well. I hope you will go and check out the other videos I've made if you're interested in Virgin. Again, the best videos you're going to find, I don't just say that because it's my videos, they are factually the best ones, objectively. On dining reservations, on the embarkation day stuff, the actual restaurant tips and tricks. There's a whole playlist out there. Go and check it out on the channel. If you do and you find them useful, again, I really would appreciate a subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Seriously appreciate every thumbs up on those videos. And of course, leave a comment to let not just me, but others know how helpful those videos were to you. That helps it get out there. It's always great knowing that the time spent putting those together was not in vain. And certainly on those, I can see it wasn't. It's helped so many people. And on one of my sailings, someone recognized me. Actually, it was on one of my last ones on Virgin. And they just came up to me and said, like, oh, you're the guy from that channel with the video on the dining, like the backwards booking thing and all of that. And I said, yeah. And they said, oh my word, like, thank you so much. And they offered to get me a drink and all that. Like, they were very sweet. And those kind of moments are really awesome and fantastic. And again, the comments that are really appreciative also, they make a huge difference. So I love to always respond to every comment. I make it my mission to do so. So if you ever write one, good chance I'll see it, good chance I'll respond as soon as I can. And that's it. Happy New Year if you're watching this in January of 2026. I hope you look forward to more live streams to come, and with better structure. Certainly, I apologize on that, and certainly better or less technical issues. Right.